You know who I am. I hope. Marky Billson here, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-City sports fans. Name of the program, Tri-City Sports Now. We own the Tri-Cities with the best guests and the hardest-hitting opinions in the market. Today's show, we're going to look at the baseball. You heard the Appalachian League and all this. But I wanted to begin today's show talking about boxing, which is something that I guess we haven't really... We've done it before. One of our first big interviews, in fact, that we did on the show was with Chrissy Martin, Bristol, talking a bit about boxing. I remember... In fact, you can hear that interview on YouTube. Go to Marky Billson, my own... like me and follow me on YouTube, because we've got the highlights of the show on there, and you'll be able to hear my conversation with Chrissy Martin. But this was a big boxing weekend, and when was the last time you could really say that? But the thing was, it was supposed to be all about Manny Pacquiao and Keith Thurman. The welterweight supremacy. We don't even know what the belts are. I mean, they're just, the unified champion is just not existent anymore, I guess. So this was welterweight supremacy. No, I mean, we'll buy Pacquiao. We'll buy that, although I guess Floyd Mayweather has something to say about it, and has on Twitter. But that wasn't the biggest story in boxing this weekend, not by a long shot. It was, of course, junior welterweight Maxim Dadashev, 28, dying after his fight with Subriel Martius. If you haven't seen the video, do so at 2 o'clock. Do so sometime soon. Maxim Dadashev. Okay, see this video. It is absolutely heartbreaking. Buddy McGirt. You met the name, if it rings a bell, he was a prominent fighter in the 90s and the beginning of the century. Won, I think it was 70-odd fights. And fought a lot of, Livingstone Bramble, I know, was a rivalry he had, and all. And, I recognized his name. And now he's a trainer, and he's a pretty good one. In fact, he's been recognized as, trainer of the year and all this. And so there's 213-0 fighters. It's Maxim Dadashev, Subriel Martius. They're fighting in Maryland, actually. And it's, I think, late in the fight. And just like Duck Koo Kim. If you're familiar with the story of Duck Koo Kim and Ray Mancini, Duck Koo Kim, I think, took 39 straight blows once at the end of the fight. And then, of course, he died afterward, And, I mean, when he took the punch that killed him, didn't die right away, he tried to get up. That was back in 1982. The reason we remember that is that was that Boom Boom Mancini, Duck Koo Kim fight, and I'm sure even if you weren't around in 1982, that was the biggest sporting event on TV of the day. It was nationally televised on CBS. If you were going to watch sports that afternoon, I forget if it was Saturday or Sunday, but if you were going to watch it that afternoon, you were going to watch that fight. And Mancini had, really captured the nation's interest for whatever reason. He was one of those fighters. And, then we saw his opponent die the next day. And that's that really is shocking, to people. And this is what people are seeing now when they're looking at that video of Buddy McGirt. Please, let me stop the fight. The problem is, of course, Dadashev he's Russian. And McGirt even goes to a translator and says, look, tell him what I'm saying. I want to stop the fight. The fight is stopped, actually. Okay? And it's surprising because Dadashev may look like he's a little dazed, but he does not look like he's going to die. But soon enough, leaves the ring, vomits, collapses, brain surgery, Friday night fight on Tuesday, he's dead. Now, if that doesn't break your heart, then perhaps the statement from Dadashev's wife, who lives in Russia with a young son, this will break your heart. Dadashev was a very kind person who fought until the very end. Our son will continue to be raised to be the great man like his father. But he's not going to know. I started looking at this. New York Times has a story out. To tell you the truth, I think it could be better written. But they got a story out, and in November there was a boxing fatality in Thailand. Christian Dadashev was the gentleman's name. I started looking into Christian Dadashev. I was doing some research this morning. It's a real interesting story. He took up professional boxing a week before his 46th birthday. George Foreman, oldest heavyweight champion at 45, back in the mid-90s, I think in 94, he knocked out Michael Moore. And I want to say that was the day of the O.J. Simpson Bronco chase. But that was, boxing history. Michael Moore was the only left-handed, the only southpaw heavyweight champ for all the Rocky fans out there. No, it did happen, Michael Moore. And Foreman knocked him out late in that fight, too. Prior to that, the record of oldest heavyweight champ who got the belt, it occurred in 1951, Jersey Joe Wolcott at the age of 37. So Foreman was not only breaking that record, he was shattering it. 45 years of age, by 8 years, oldest heavyweight champ. So it was, look what we can do. And I think that, certainly people like that story. Look what we can do. And sure, a generation later, then I'm sure that Dadashev, who's a man of Italian descent, or he's from Italy, and had somehow begun to box in Thailand. And he actually started off pretty well. He won his first 10 fights. He got a belt. It was called the World Boxing Federation International Light Heavyweight title. He was 10-0. And the only problem was, those 10 fights, only one of his opponents had a winning record. He fought a lot of tomato cans. Sure enough, a fighter was 6-4, to tell you the truth, knocked him out. And you can see, he just never got up. It was one of those things. And it's on YouTube, for those of you who, this morning I started watching people die. That was fun. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this. You do start wondering, wait a minute, 46 years old, a week shy of his 46 years, and he's going to start boxing. Wait a minute here. We're all for what can you do, but, I can prove these shoes are fireproof. No, maybe you shouldn't. That's the thing here. And by the way, if a guy can begin to box at the age of 46, even in Thailand, okay, a week shy of 46, 45 years old, he can begin to box professionally then, and he wins a belt, even if he's beaten up on tomato cans. What does it say about the talent in the sport right now of boxing? It really doesn't say much of it now, does it? Then again, the idea of boxing, many people tell you it's exploited. Nobody comes from Beverly Hills and becomes a prize fighter. You think about this for a second. Now, this is not a call to ban boxing, okay, for a variety of reasons. It's not practical. Let's just say you could do it. Let's just say a state decided to ban boxing, and there became a movement. Well, what you'd get is the fights would all be in, if they're not already, places like Nevada, places like New Jersey, and you'd get the old call. You get this with gambling a lot. Why should they have all the fun? Why should they get all the boxing money? even if you had a federal law, boxing would go to another country. The other thing is it would move underground. You wouldn't ban it. You just make it actually less safe because you'd still have, somebody in the, down the basement of their bar or whatever. It would happen. It just would be, you wouldn't hear about it, that sort of thing. You'd have speakeasies of boxing. There you go. That wouldn't make it more safe. And it would also begin a call for banning contact sports. It could be football, it could be MMA. And if you thought that sports was overwrought with politics, now as savage as boxing may be, or for that matter, football, there is an appeal of physically defeating an opponent that lies, I think, within us all. I've thought about this. What's the first thing you do with your buddies when you're little boys? Like 8 years old and under. We used to always tussle on the bed, right? And like wrestle. We were learning what our bodies were. We were, having, and that's how, kids play. And I think that it does evolve into boxing or wrestling or what have you. And I think that, you can try to legislate it or something. It's still going to be inside you, and I'm not sure it would necessarily be healthy to ban the sport. But how do you make the sport more healthy? After all, football experiments with new rules and equipment to make itself safer all the time, and boxing resists such things. Headgear. No. It's like, I've heard people talk about Teddy Atlas to Scotty Vance to what, but wait a minute here. If we're going to have celebrity boxing, we're going to have headgear. If we're going to have amateur boxing, we're going to have headgear. Why aren't we having headgear in professional boxing? This doesn't make any sense when you're having these fatalities. What about lighter gloves? There's bare knuckle boxing came back a while back. It has been said that bare knuckle fighting, although it's tougher on your hands, is the safest form of boxing due to the fact that you don't have, say 8 ounces or 10 ounces more of mass on your hand to hit the other guy's brain. And there's something to be said for that. But what about lighter gloves and all that? There's a Twitter war out right now Manny Pacquiao has with Floyd Mayweather. And I wondered if almost that was designed to sort of take the attention off of Dadashev's death. But it should also be said, Pacquiao has tweeted out his condolences to Maxim Dadashev's family and such. But I also thought about this. For whatever reason, I've been watching lately on my free time a lot of old-time wrestling. I don't know why. Roddy Piper got in my head. I was a big fan of his when I was a kid, and I started watching, there's so much stuff on YouTube. Really just enjoying it. The character, the personality, all of that. And I started thinking that one of the reasons pro wrestling, although now, it's experiencing this lull in popularity, and we can discuss that, maybe we will in the next segment, but it did have a boom in the final years of the 20th century, Hulkamania going to the late 90s when you had the WCW, WWE, fights and all the fights, competitions and all this. There were a lot of, it had become mainstream. Hulk Hogan's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Roddy Piper is the star of They Live, which opens up in the box office #1. Yeah, that's a while back. It's, I'm a child of the 80s, and that's when it was back in those days. Let alone a Scott Hall or, where the sport has gone now, where, Ronda Rousey leaves MMA to participate in WWE. Although wrestling is like, right, and maybe it's cyclical, but it is experiencing a lull. I'm sort of wondering though, why did wrestling take off? Okay, Vince McMahon knew how to promote it. We'll give you that. But also, maybe we realize that we do like this, physical, one-on-one combatants. I like boxing, sure. It's very intriguing. But you were seeing the fights in pro wrestling when I was experiencing the boom. But you know what? We had the knowledge it was staged combat. And also, there were always the storylines. I mean, everybody was a character. Hulk Hogan's real name is Terry. Roddy Piper's real name is not Piper, it's Toombs. I mean, there's, but these are storylines and all this. These are characters and all this. They were fictitious characters. You got into it. Certainly and I think every boy when they're a teenager probably gets into pro wrestling for whatever. It's a storyline. It's simplistic and all this. But we also know, even if, Owen Hart may fall to his death because he's coming into the ring on some fancy, it's a stunt gone bad. We know that it's staged combat. You're not going to die in the ring. NASCAR has realized it can't withstand the fatalities of their participants. We did find out, that in 2001, I have heard the idea that the Earnhardt death created a boom in NASCAR popularity. I have a difficult time saying you're wrong, but there was so much attention given to it that people, maybe casual fans, said, well, what's all the interest in here? And that lasted for a couple of years until the Car of Tomorrow and I think even the playoffs and all that really, did away with that stuff. And, there were too many 1.5 mile tracks and, all the story why for NASCAR's demise. And, we have Jerry Bonkowski, and at least he's, I think the sport will come back. Everybody who comes to motorsports will always tell you that. I think the sport will come back, We're still waiting, though. But I think NASCAR realized, though, everybody's got to have the Hans device now, There hasn't been, to my knowledge, I know there was the situation, what was it, in the World of Outlaws track where the driver got run over trying to throw his helmet at Tony Stewart, that sort of, but that's, kind of in the Owen Hart type of deal. Who wanders out in the middle of a track while a race is going on? But NASCAR understood that they could not withstand the fatalities of their participants. Maybe Earnhardt, maybe Fireball Roberts, they go on, I don't know. Maybe that, the idea they died in the track, although I guess Roberts died 3 weeks after his burns. That had to be a horrible way to go. Maybe, that has something adding to their legend, and I hate to say that, because it seems to devalue life, but you understand the storyline of, the participant who dies doing what he loves. But still, NASCAR realized, we can't be offing our participants here. My question just is, boxing just does not seem to have that same mentality. And again, maybe that's why it's so down. Tell me who the heavyweight champ is. Believe it or not married to Hayden Panettiere. And to be honest with you, I can't tell you. And all this. Why do we follow, what's the boxing story? It's not Pacquiao versus Thurman. It is Dadashev's death. It takes that. Look how barbaric it is to make the headlines in boxing. Tri-City Sports Now. We'll be back. We'll talk a little bit Tennessee's basketball schedule. Keep talking college basketball. We've got football news. Titans are down another player. All this sort of stuff coming back after this Tri-City Sports Now.